This question has been heard more times than anyone can count. Will AI replace radiologists? It's easy to understand why people ask it. When AI reads scans, detects tumors, and spots patterns faster than any human ever could, it feels like the end of the profession. A few years ago, people openly said radiology would be one of the first medical careers to disappear. Then something unexpected happened. AI didn't shrink the profession. It created an even greater demand for radiologists. And somehow, after all the automation, healthcare systems now need more radiologists than ever. Here's why. When early AI models entered medical imaging, the assumption was simple. If a machine could read X-rays, CT scans, and MRIs faster and more accurately than humans, then human readers would become redundant. From a surface-level view, that logic made sense. Automation replaces labor. That's how technology usually works. But medicine doesn't behave like a factory. Healthcare is constrained by human bottlenecks, legal oversight, responsibility, ethics, and scale. When AI arrived, it didn't remove the need for radiologists. It removed the slowest parts of their workflow. Instead of replacing doctors, AI removed friction. And friction was everywhere. Before AI, radiologists were drowning. Hospitals were generating more imaging data every year. Aging populations, better imaging machines, more preventive screening. Demand was exploding. But the number of trained radiologists wasn't keeping up. Burnout was rising. Backlogs were growing. Errors happened not because doctors lacked skill, but because volume was crushing them. That's where AI stepped in. AI began handling the first pass, triaging scans, flagging abnormalities, prioritizing urgent cases. It didn't make decisions alone. It amplified human judgment. And once that happened, something powerful occurred. Throughput exploded. Radiologists could review more scans per hour. Hospitals could justify running more imaging. Screening programs expanded. Early detection increased. Preventive care scaled. And suddenly, demand didn't go down. It went up. This is the part most people miss. When the cost and time of something critical are reduced, society doesn't consume less of it. It consumes more. This happened with computing. It happened with bandwidth. It happened with data storage. And now it's happening in medicine. AI didn't replace radiologists. It unlocked suppressed demand. Hospitals that once limited imaging due to staffing constraints could now screen broader populations. Countries with limited medical specialists could finally deploy imaging at scale. Rural hospitals that struggled to staff full teams could rely on AI-assisted workflows, but they still needed licensed professionals overseeing decisions. And here's something important. AI does not take responsibility. Humans do. In medicine, accountability matters. A diagnosis isn't just a prediction. It's a legal, ethical, and human decision. AI can suggest, highlight, and prioritize, but a radiologist signs the report. That responsibility doesn't disappear. In fact, it becomes more valuable. So instead of shrinking the profession, AI raised its leverage. One radiologist could now oversee a much larger system, and that made radiologists more central, not less. From an infrastructure perspective, this is exactly how accelerated computing is supposed to work. Experts aren't replaced. Their reach is extended. The same pattern has appeared across industries. Engineers didn't disappear when compilers improved. Traders didn't vanish when algorithms arrived. Pilots didn't disappear when autopilot became standard. The role evolved. The value shifted upward. Radiology is going through that exact transition. This is why healthcare systems are hiring aggressively again. More imaging, more oversight, more specialization. More AI-literate radiologists who understand how to work with these systems. Ironically, the fear of replacement scared many students away from radiology years ago, and now healthcare systems are paying the price. Demand outpaced supply. Again, that's the paradox of AI. It makes professionals more productive, and then society demands even more output. From the infrastructure side, this outcome was anticipated. When hospitals began deploying AI imaging models, their compute requirements exploded. Medical imaging isn't lightweight data. It's high-resolution, three-dimensional, time-sensitive information. Training and running those models requires serious acceleration. That's where companies building advanced compute systems entered the picture. GPUs were no longer just powering research labs. They were running clinical workflows. Hospitals became data centers. Medical devices became AI endpoints. Once healthcare systems invested in that infrastructure, they didn't stop at one use case. AI expanded into pathology, cardiology, oncology, surgery planning, and patient monitoring. Each new application increased the need for human expertise, not less. This is where many misunderstand AI economics. Automation doesn't eliminate jobs in complex systems. It restructures them. Value moves from manual repetition to judgment, oversight, integration, and decision-making. Radiologists who understand AI aren't competing with machines. They're commanding systems that span entire hospitals. That's why compensation didn't collapse. That's why demand stayed high. That's why training pipelines are being rebuilt. And it's not just radiology. This same pattern is playing out in law, finance, engineering, and defense. Anywhere AI increases throughput, the limiting factor becomes human decision authority, not computation. From a national perspective, this matters. Healthcare systems are strategic infrastructure. Early detection saves lives. Preventive screening reduces long-term costs. Faster diagnostics improve outcomes. Governments understand this now. They're investing heavily in AI-assisted healthcare not to replace doctors, but to scale care without sacrificing quality. And they can't do that without people. That's the lesson radiology taught the world. AI didn't hollow out the profession, it revealed how valuable it actually is. The radiologist of today isn't just reading images. They're supervising AI, validating results, handling edge cases, and integrating findings into broader treatment plans. Their role became more complex, not simpler. And complexity is where humans thrive. This is why the narrative of AI as a job destroyer falls apart. The real risk isn't AI replacing professionals. The real risk is not preparing professionals to work with AI. When systems move faster than training, gaps appear. Those gaps create fear, confusion, and inequality. But when education, policy, and infrastructure move together, AI becomes an amplifier of human potential. Radiology shows what happens when it's done right. There's another layer to this story that rarely gets discussed. When AI entered radiology, it didn't just change how scans were read, it changed who decides what gets scanned in the first place. Imaging was no longer reserved only for the most obvious cases. AI made it economically viable to look earlier, broader, and more often. That shift alone multiplied workloads across entire healthcare systems. Early detection changed incentives. Hospitals realized that catching disease sooner dramatically reduced downstream costs. Insurers adjusted policies, governments updated screening guidelines. Entire populations that were previously underscanned became visible to the system, and every one of those scans still required a qualified human signature. That's where radiologists became strategic assets. Not technicians, not image readers, but decision makers inside national healthcare pipelines. From an infrastructure perspective, this mattered enormously. When screening volumes doubled or tripled, healthcare systems didn't slow down. They scaled. That required new data centers, new accelerated compute, new deployment models, and more professionals trained to operate inside those environments. AI didn't simplify medicine. It expanded the surface area of responsibility. And responsibility doesn't scale automatically. Humans scale responsibility. This is why workforce shortages actually worsened after AI adoption. More imaging created more edge cases. More AI surfaced more findings. More findings required more judgment. More judgment required more experienced professionals. The bottleneck moved, but it didn't disappear. In many countries, governments are now funding radiology training programs again, not because AI failed, but because it succeeded too well. The system grew faster than the human layer supporting it. That's a lesson every industry should pay attention to. Whenever AI works, demand expands. Whenever demand expands, oversight becomes critical. And wherever oversight becomes critical, human expertise becomes scarce. Scarcity drives value. Radiologists didn't lose relevance, they became infrastructure. And once a role becomes infrastructure, it doesn't vanish. It gets protected, invested in, and scaled. That's the real reason this profession survived the AI wave. and why it quietly emerged stronger. So when someone asks, did AI wipe out radiologists? The answer is simple, no. AI made them indispensable at scale, and this pattern will repeat. The future belongs to professionals who understand how to command intelligent systems, not compete against them. For anyone thinking about careers, the takeaway is clear. Don't ask whether AI will replace a job. Ask whether that role can scale with AI. Because the people who learn to work with these tools won't disappear. They'll become the bottleneck, and bottlenecks are valuable. Radiologists learned that lesson first. Many others are about to learn it next. This transformation is still unfolding. Systems are being built. Hospitals are adapting. Education is catching up. And the story people told years ago, that AI would erase entire professions, turned out to be far too simple for a very complex world. Before leaving, it's worth thinking about how often this pattern repeats in history. Technology removes limits. Demand expands. Human judgment becomes more valuable, not less. If the goal is to understand where AI is actually taking the world, beyond headlines and hype, staying engaged matters. Before you go, hit subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it keeps viewers ahead of the changes already reshaping careers, industries, and economies. Because this isn't just about AI, it's about how humans scale in an intelligent world.